Roundtable was organized in relation to a study that was conducted. So for those that registered, I sent out the recording of the policy brief yesterday, and we've sort of been very privileged to have some very experienced panelists on our side to come and discuss some of the findings of the study. So I'll first introduce myself, then I'll pass it round for everyone to introduce themselves. So my name is Winifred Soribe. I'm a PhD candidate from the University of Bedfordshire in Luton in the UK. My area of research focuses on how entrepreneurs raise finance. And so I have been very fortunate to meet some great people on Founders and Mentors. So Founders and Mentors is an online global mentoring platform. It focuses on the pre-launch ecosystem. And what we do there is to help entrepreneurs at the early stage sort of cross the hurdles in raising, not just finance, but just in starting a business. So I have most of the networks I've built since my research, especially as I was collecting data, was from that platform. So shout out to that platform. And that's a bit about myself. I'd just like to use this opportunity to recognize my PhD supervisors that are here. Dr. Mohammed Saudi is my Director of Studies, and Professor Ram Ramanathan. So I'll move over to Jenny, who's next to me on the screen, for some introduction.
Sure, happy to. Hi, my name is Jenny Choi, and I'm a special counsel at the SEC's Office of the Advocate for Small Business Capital Formation. And I know that's a really long name. In fact, we have the longest name within the agency. And sure enough, we also have a mighty task and mission, which is to really advance interests of small business and investors, ranging from very early stage startups to more mature private companies, all the way to smaller public companies. Our office also really focuses on addressing and identifying unique challenges faced by minority-owned, women-owned, as well as rural and natural disaster-impacted small businesses and investors. And before I go any further, I just have to give a standard disclaimer that any of the comments that I'm making today are my own and do not reflect those of the commission, commissioners, and any other members of the staff.
Great, thanks for that, Jenny. We'll move over now to Dennis. Dennis, please.
Hi, everyone. Dennis Joyce, Director of Investments for Tacoma Venture Fund, which is an early stage venture capital fund based in Tacoma, Washington. We were investing out of our first fund here. We invest in early stage companies, venture scale companies, with aspirations of growing their business to and above $10 million in yearly sales with a 3 to 5 year time frame. We invest throughout the Pacific Northwest with a focus or an intentional focus towards Seattle and Tacoma companies. We lean heavily in towards companies that are building venture scale businesses in Pierce, Kitsap, and Thurston counties. So Tacoma, Olympia, and the Peninsula.
Great, thanks for that one, Dennis. We'll move over now to Kerry.
Thank you. My name is Kerry Hurrell. I'm the District Director for the U.S. Small Business Administration, covering most of Washington and North Idaho. SBA is the lead advocate for small businesses in the federal government. And we're just a small, tiny agency, but we have a powerful menu of programs that are designed to help small businesses prosper. And the way we do that is we partner with state and local organizations in the various communities, such as Tacoma. We have several partners there, to provide business technical resources, capital, which we're going to talk a lot about today, and business development opportunities through supply chain activities. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Great, thanks a lot for that introduction, Kerry. We'll move on now to Jennifer Ness.
Hi, Winifred. Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. So I'm Jennifer Ness. I am here representing the Seattle Credit Union. We are a statewide credit union, and we are actually moving into Tacoma, so I just want to pause for that. because I think it's a wonderful thing. We're moving into Tacoma and Pierce County. We have been around since 1933. And we started for the advancement of folks who were underserved, underbanked, and we are continuing in that effort. So super excited to be moving into Tacoma, to be addressing some of the challenges that the residents of Tacoma have, and to bring our curated products to the residents of Tacoma and also Pierce County. So thank you for having me. I also represent BOBI, which is Black-Owned Business Excellence, which is a collaboration of community partners, small business owners, and community providers who help Black-owned businesses. And I like what Jenny said when she gave her disclaimer, like anything that I say is a reflection of me and no one else. So I might say some things and don't take it harshly. It's a reflection of me and no one else. So, so thank you for that.
Okay, great. Thanks for that one, Jennifer. Next, move over to Julia. Yeah, Julia, please.
Yeah, apologies for being late due to tech issues. I am Julia Turlanchamp. I work for the Office of Economic Development and Competitiveness at the Washington State Department of Commerce. I'm here today as a specialist in COVID relief opportunities, mostly grants that we do in response to the pandemic. But I'm also happy to share a number of different programs, including a number of very interesting programs that was just passed a few weeks ago and should be signed any day now by the governor, which I think will be of great interest to this community. So thank you so much for having me today.
Great, thank you to Julia. So we're going to kick off the discussion today, first of all, with a poll. So the poll is just trying to gauge our audience interest in the types of funding that are available and which one do they find more, more attractive. So I'll just launch the poll, and please, all the attendees, if you could just quickly choose an answer, and then we'll share the results with everyone. Just launch that. So we'll just give a few minutes for this. Okay, so we're almost done with the response. Okay. So the first question said, what type of entrepreneurial finance is most used when bootstrapping your business? So, the highest, the answer with the highest rating there is personal funds. So we tend to see that 81% of the entrepreneurs here today would use personal funds to bootstrap their businesses. The next one we have is bank loans and then equity. So we both have 13% as the next alternative to personal funds, with the list being lines of credit and grant applications. So we're going to kick off the discussions now. And what we're going to be doing is really just asking our panelists here their views on certain kinds of finance. So as you have heard from the introduction, Julia is specializing in grants, Jennifer, Ness, and Kerry are on the debt side. Kerry too has some experience with grants and will be channeling the equity-related questions to Jenny and Dennis. So we'll be starting off with Jennifer Ness. So with Jennifer Ness, from the research we conducted, and I've shared the policy brief with those that registered and with yourselves as well. One of the things that was reoccurring there was credit rating when it comes to applying for loans and just debt finance in general. Most entrepreneurs, because the focus of the study was entrepreneurs from historically underfinanced backgrounds, we find out that those entrepreneurs feel very burdened by low credit scores and things like that. So my first question really would be, do you think there is any alternative to credit rating? And just generally, what is your take on credit rating as a means of accessing whether people can get loans or not?
So thank you, Winifred. So the first thing is your credit worthiness and your credit score definitely shows a good picture of your history, the things that you've done, and the responsibility that you have with finances. And then the second thing is, it's historically has been used against us, and a lot of us don't know how to use credit. We don't know how to start. We definitely have started way behind the curve. I mean, a lot of us just started getting access to credit in the 1970s, so real recent. So as far as the use of credit scores to assess someone's credibility, everybody's going to use that because your word is not enough. At the Seattle Credit Union, I will say that is one factor that we use, and a lot of other CDFIs, which is Community Development Fund institutions. So the credit score is one factor that is used, and for us, we actually allow a lower credit score, whereas some folks may say that you have to have a 680 or a 700. We actually approve things on a case-by-case basis, and we can go as low as a 620. So it's important for you to understand that, first of all, what your credit score is. Second of all, we have credit counselors on our staff to help you to improve or increase your credit score. And so if credit score is an issue or a barrier for anybody, there is assistance that is available for you and to you to increase your credit score. So the first thing I tell people is, number one, don't disqualify yourself. Absolutely go and ascertain what the qualifications are. And then once you know, see what you can do to improve, because it does not take a long time to increase your credit score. I mean, it could take a matter of 90 days and you can have 90 points or more. So the intimidation lies in the misunderstanding or the lack of knowledge. So getting the knowledge, getting the understanding, getting the support you need is how you improve your credit score. So the answer to your question, yes, credit score is a factor in a lot of determinations, and sometimes it can be an absolute barrier. But it doesn't have to be the end-all, be-all. There is a lot of support that can help you to increase your credit score. And at the Seattle Credit Union, one of the things that we are doing is we are making sure that we are sitting down with our members and assessing where they are and helping them with a plan to get them where they need to be. So hopefully that answers your question, Winifred.
It does answer my question. Thank you for that one, Ness. We'll move over now to Kerry. So Kerry would look at what the SBA does. So how does the SBA, what are some of the activities that the SBA does? That's the Seattle chapter. What are some of the things they do to support entrepreneurs from historically underfinanced backgrounds?
So, thanks, Winifred. We work with a lot of local organizations who actually borrow money from the SBA at a very low interest rate so that they can set up a loan fund to then re-lend to small businesses. And often these businesses might even be a micro enterprise that may have one employee, maybe a sole proprietor. But I want to kind of flip back to what Ness said just a little bit, because I think it's important to why SBA exists and how we can be effective. So Ness said something that was very key, and that she said historically underfinanced individuals may not be used to getting credit. And if you're not used to getting credit in your personal life, that becomes even far more complex in your business. And so with SBA, what we want to do is we want to make sure your business gets credit or access to capital, regardless of what that source is, so that you can have cost-effective credit to help your business have the money it needs so that you can buy the supplies you need or the raw materials that you need so that you have your product or service that you can then sell. So what we do is we actually work with these micro lenders that I just mentioned, where they borrow money from us, and we have 5 micro lenders in the Washington area, and many of them are just, they're phenomenal. So some of them will finance as low as 500, and some will actually go up to 50,000. So there's a lot of businesses that can go there. But what's really critical is the technical assistance before you apply. So in this case, we also have individuals and organizations who will work with you one-on-one to prepare for the loan. And what we find is that there's a lot of mystery that's associated with financing. Isn't so much the mystery of getting the loan or applying for the loan, it's getting ready for the loan, understanding your financial statements and projections so that the lender will know how much first of all, what do you want to use the money for? Do you want to just use the money to buy materials, or do you need the money to buy a property, or maybe there's a specialty piece of equipment you need? And so understanding what the loan officer needs so that they can give you an easy yes, or at least get you ready. So maybe if today's not right, you can get that in the near term future.
Great. Thanks for that one, Kerry, because from the research we did, the technical assistance really does make a difference, especially when it comes to debt, because just, debt in itself makes people a bit uncomfortable. So, and, sometimes they do feel intimidated by the process of applying for it. So I think the technical assistance does make a lot of difference. So thank you for that one. We'll move over now to Julia. So Julia, we know that your office represents grants to an extent. So your office and that of the SBA. We want to know, what are some of the things that your office does to help entrepreneurs from historically underfinanced backgrounds?
Thank you for that question. So we have a number of different programs, and I thought it most relevant to talk about what is currently available and then what is coming up in the very near future. So I also want to acknowledge that we have a number of fantastic partners. Lisa Smith is just joined us as a great example of, and then we also have the SBDC. We have a number of different local and statewide partners that are critical to this process. And so it's very important. I just had this conversation this morning with one of my colleagues about part of our effort in order to reach these types of communities is to really go through our trusted messengers. And so the reality is we are government. I live in my own community, but it doesn't mean that I understand OMAC, or I understand Linden, or I understand Asotin County in the way that our local partners truly do. So that is a critical component of making sure that when we do outreach, we work with our local communities to help do that. That also means for communities where English might not be the first language, that we're sensitive to that. We've also learned a lot about translation services, like not just translating it into Chinese or translating it into Spanish, but understanding the local communities and the dialects that they prefer and trust, and making sure that we're sensitive to those needs as well. In terms of programs, the one program I really like to mention is our Flex Fund. And I don't know what's helpful, but I'm happy to either post links in the chat, or I can also just send them afterwards. But so I'll do both. The Flex Fund is for small businesses and nonprofits. They can apply for a low interest loan of up to $150,000 to finance expansion and growth, as well as recover from the pandemic and subsequent economic slowdown. And we've since given this launch last year about 420 loans. As of last night, they average about 85,000. There's a whole range up to 150,000, and we've leveraged about we've given out 35.5 million. We as a state used federal funds to put about 30 million. We were able to partner with private sector and leverage over 55 million. So it's really important for us to utilize, again, our relationships with the private sector to be able to maximize the funds that we've received from the feds. So that's one example. I will say that in learning, in implementing that program, my colleagues really identified who was not being reached. And so that is how we the program that was just passed by the legislature, and it's a credit repair program. And so we were realizing, I mean, great, the conversations have already been discussed, is that has been a huge barrier and it's extremely unfair. And so they just passed $3 million just to focus and create a program on that. That's in addition or part of an expansion of support and funding to our Small Business Resiliency Network, which is over 30 organizations. There's a significant focus on BIPOC-owned businesses. These are community organizations that work directly with their own neighbors, and expanding that network, because again, going back to that, the importance of trusted messengers. So that's part of the program, and we're working very closely with, again, our community partners to figure out how do we best address these credit challenges, and how do we overcome, because at the end of the day, I've worked in government for most of my life. We love bureaucracy. Not really. I'm being sarcastic. We're very well aware of bureaucracy. And so people like me, we have to learn to work within the system. And this is a great example, this, credit repair program, expanding the Small Business Resiliency Network, of us acknowledging, gosh, there's a lot of challenges out there. Well, what can we do to try to fix some of these, even if it's going to be, incremental change. And so this is just a start to the process. The last thing I wanted to share is that we're well aware of a number of these gaps, but it's incredibly important to hear feedback and get these ideas. And so another program that was passed for $34.5 million is called the Small Business Innovation Program. And this is really focused on BIPOC entrepreneurs. It's a range of different types of support program. The money will go directly to nonprofits to then work within the community. And that was championed by Noel Frame. So again, another example of a very specific program to focus on communities that often get left out. The last one I want to mention has to do with cannabis funds. I think we're all well aware of who's been most impacted by the amount of racism with the kind of laws that were passed and the disproportionate impact of those laws. So there's significant amount of funds that have been directed to what we call community reinvestment. The first step in that effort is to do actually an impact study, and then to really delve into understanding how do we best allocate these funds when we look at housing, workforce challenges, small businesses most impacted. So I've given you a lot of information. I'm going to include a few links, and I'm going to take a step back because I have lots more information to share, and I'll wait till the questions come.
All right, great. Thanks for that one, Julia. So we noticed that Lisa Smith is here from the Washington State Micro Enterprise Association. So Lisa, if you just want to give us a very brief intro, and then we'll carry on with the questioning.
Definitely. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I apologize for being late. I've switched emails and I couldn't get on for my life. So briefly, the Washington State Microenterprise Association has been around for 17 years. Our focus is really building capacity in nonprofits that serve businesses. So Julia mentioned the Small Business Resiliency Network. Many of those folks are partners in our network. And our role really is four things. We provide small grants to these nonprofits to help the businesses better reach more communities, provide different kinds of training. We do networking, bringing folks together. We do ongoing training and technical assistance. And then we are about to launch a platform that will enable any business anywhere in the state to get the trusted connection with resources that are perfect for them. And these will be only nonprofit organizations. And so I'm fortunate to work with Ness, Tucker, who's one of my favorite people. And obviously, Kerry Hurrell is a champion here in the States for so many reasons with the SBA. I guess what I'll say is that our dream, our vision, is that demystifying the financial barriers that have kept folks out, especially historically marginalized communities, will be that we can garner the political will to simplify these barriers, reduce or eliminate the ones that are very difficult, and be able to help as many people as possible get their financial house in order so they can be more competitive and access these funds quickly, more easily, and more effectively. Thanks.
Great. Thanks for that one, for that lovely introduction, Lisa. We'll move over now to Jenny. So, Jenny, I've had to write down the name of your office so that I get the pronunciation right. But I want to know, we're really happy to have, the Securities and Exchange Commission here. We just want to know, what you sort of mentioned it, when you were introducing yourself, what your office does. But do you want to sort of elaborate on some of the things, some of the programs that you've run to help entrepreneurs from historically underfinanced background access more equity funds?
We're happy to. Yes, as I mentioned, one of the focuses of our office is to identify and address unique challenges faced by underrepresented and business founders as well as their investors. So there are several things that we try to do that. And first, we try to engage with various players in the space, either by doing outreach events or by just having closed door private conversations to really hear from them what their challenges are or what their pain points are. And then we use the feedback that we get and try to incorporate that type of challenges that they face whenever there's new rulemaking, new regulations or policies that the commission puts out. So we try to advise the commission as to how those rules and policies may impact small businesses. And by small businesses, as I mentioned before, it really ranges from early stage startups all the way to smaller public companies. And finally, what we also try to do is really try to build educational resources that are mostly on our website. And that is just to really make federal securities laws, which tend to be very complex, just a little bit more accessible, because those could be critical when it comes to capital raising efforts. And the reason why that's also a big focus of our office is because, what we've been hearing is one of the big challenges that especially early stage entrepreneurs face is something that I think a lot of the panelists have mentioned is, this lack of information, education, and knowledge. And so we kind of want to bridge the gap as much as possible. Perhaps my team members are joining this event as well, and they may be able to enter the link to the website. But in case you can't see it, the website that we have is www.sec.gov/capital raising. It's Capital Raising Hub. That's how we named it. And there are various resources that we try to put out there, but I just wanted to highlight a couple of them. First, we have this tool called Navigator, and what it does is it asks you a set of questions and kind of really geared towards early stage entrepreneurs to evaluate, what are the basic steps they kind of need to take to start a business, but also as they're trying to raise equity capital, what are some of the questions and factors that they need to consider. And so depending on that, it's trying to kind of navigate you towards the options that might be available for you. There's another one called the glossary, which is, essentially like a dictionary. As I mentioned, federal securities laws can be very complex, and there are a lot of legal and technical terms. So we try to explain them as plainly as possible for entrepreneurs, and even for legal professionals. Some of these terms can be a little bit tricky or very technical. So we try to explain them in the glossary section. And finally, there's a building block section, which is, continuously, we're literally trying to build the blocks as we hear feedbacks from a bunch of folks. And what it essentially does is trying to kind of boil down fundamental concepts of some of the federal securities laws and trying to give you a very high level overview of what they are. And as I mentioned, we're very open to feedbacks and comments. So to the extent that you take a look at the website and say, hey, I don't really understand what this means, definitely reach out to us. Or, I see this on the building block section. Can I learn more about XYZ topics? We're happy to hear that as well and try to incorporate that feedback. And our contact information is on our website, which is separate from the website that I just mentioned, which is at www.sec.gov/OASB. So there you'll be able to find our general email contact as well as even a phone number where you can leave a message, and we're happy to contact you through that route.
Great, thank you very much for that, Jenny. So we'll move over finally now to Dennis. Dennis, if you could just tell us a bit about what Tacoma Venture does for entrepreneurs from historically underfinanced backgrounds. So if I highlight back to the annual report prepared by Jenny's office, in that report, it stated that private equity was one of, not just equity investment in general, was one of the least used forms of entrepreneurial finance. So you just could highlight some of the reasons why and what are some of the things Tacoma Venture Fund does in this respect.
What was the question?
I know so many things in one. But we're just trying to find out what Tacoma Venture does. What are some of the things or materials or support that they provide to entrepreneurs from historically underfinanced backgrounds.
Understood. Well, we provide venture capital financing to early stage companies that are building venture scale businesses. As I said at the beginning, if you're going, am I building a venture scale business? I think the question to ask yourself is, am I building a company that I expect to get to over $10 million in yearly sales in the next 3 to 5 years? That's a pretty broad coverage area, but it also sort of selects out companies that are doing things that we really just cannot invest in. And that would be, if you're just looking to maybe start a store, or if you're looking to just, put a product out and pay yourself for doing something you really enjoy and love. That's not really venture capital investment, because the asset class that we need to the tool that we need to use is preferred stock in your business. And the way that we make money, or the way that we keep on doing this work, is when your business sells to an acquirer, and we have to get a return on that investment. And we're hoping to get between a bad result is 0x to 1x, 1 times our money back, and an average result is 3 to 5 times our money back. And we're looking for a 10 times our money back. So if we invest $300,000 in your company, and we take 25% of your company, that means your company's value is, oh my God, I should have done it better. If we invested $250,000 and we took 25% of your company, that means your company is valued at $1 million. We are hoping that you then sell your company for $10 million. And if you own 75% of your company individually, you would be taking equity of $750,000 in your company, and you'll be getting probably a cash payment or a stock payment worth $7.5 million. And everybody wins. And, we're happy with that return, and we can make more investments. And, that's a very simplified kind of equation of what we actually do. A lot of times we invest $250K with hopes that we invest maybe another, $750K in a company down the road. But from a very, very basic granular standpoint, that's kind of what we do. And we have limited partners. The people that invest in us are looking for that type of return. So when I'm talking to a business for potential investment, I have a fiduciary responsibility to my limited partners to generate a great return on their capital. So that's basically like how we operate. The rest of the sort of venture capital industry, you can read all about it in, the various magazines and TechCrunch and GeekWire and the TV show Silicon Valley and just all those types of things, and all the movies that are done about venture capitalists. It can probably appear to be like a really cool business. Like, hey, wouldn't it be great to be the investor, like Justin Timberlake in The Social Network, where you invested in Facebook back when these guys were in a dorm. You know, that's probably what it appears to be, and that's what I wish I was. Justin Timberlake invested in Facebook when it was, you know, at a Harvard dorm. But really, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get to someone with, you know, a goal to build a big company. And we're here in Tacoma, and so we have to play with what our ecosystem provides for us. All of the people that live here, that are building companies here, that are dreaming of building companies here, we have an open door policy to meet with them. You know, and I have a half hour to meet with pretty much anybody. You know, and you can get me on LinkedIn, or you can talk to me, you know, over a Zoom call. If you at the Tacoma Venture Fund website, you can email me. We have less strictures that, you know, like a bank does. We have an investment committee, but we don't really have, like, you know, we don't have to adhere to, you know, certain governmental guidelines. It's private money. You know, we're really just taking an equity position, kind of like Mr. Wonderful on Shark Tank, and you know, and trying to help you build a great company. As far as underrepresented founders, I have been very intentional in my previous career before becoming a venture capitalist as an angel investor. I did 23 investments, and 17 of them are either female-founded companies or companies with at least one minority founder. I was the first investor in the Female Founders Alliance, which is now the Graham and Walker Fund. And I've worked with Defy Ventures, which helps incarcerated individuals get you know, kind of a life plan together. I've done some work with some of the people that use the Defy Venture programs. I work with Tim Struggy, who's on the call, at the William Factory Business Incubator. So I try to be as intentional and as empathetic as I possibly can, to listen to everybody's story and hear you know, what they're looking to create. I'm a very optimistic person, and I believe that, you know, anybody can create anything. And I want everybody to be successful, and that's the truth. I don't know if everybody would want to be working with me after we do invest, because I'm probably a pretty demanding person and perhaps annoying. But, you know, I'm doing it so that we can align ourselves and we can grow. So that's the story. I'm actually pretty unfamiliar with all of these other small business lending programs. If any of the people on the panel or listening in would like to collaborate with Tacoma Venture Fund, that's great, because we love non-dilutive capital or grant money or cheap capital. You know, if someone is building, I was just on a call with a company that's probably going out of business, that, you know, they're having problems accessing the credit markets. And they wanted us to invest in their company. And they're like, I don't know if we can take your investment, because we're going to be out of money pretty soon. And we need to scramble and figure things out. We don't feel right taking on, you know, equity investment when we're at this place. So I love the opportunity to collaborate with the other financial experts, because I'm not that. I'm more of an entrepreneur expert. So, yeah.
Thank you very much for that one, Dennis. So, Jennifer Ness, you had a question. So after your question, I have a question for you too.
Oh, wonderful. I was listening to Dennis, and everything that you were saying, I'm like, where are these historically underserved folks being served? Because if you're saying we're looking for businesses who are scheduled to reach 10 million, you've cut out a ton of folks. And not only have you cut them out, they're not even going to see themselves in your marketing, because they're trying to reach. They would love to do